Have you ever felt like there are things the world chose to forget for a reason? Because if they were remembered, everything we think we know about power, control, and reality might fall apart. Hidden in the darkest corners of history lie spells so powerful, so dangerous, they were burned, banned, and buried, but they were never truly gone. Passed down in whispers, kept alive in shadows, and perhaps closer to you than you think. Here's the twist. Most people think witchcraft is just superstition. But what if I told you that some of the darkest spells in history were documented in real grimoires, used by kings, priests, and occult scholars alike? This isn't about love potions or fortune-telling. We're talking about curses that brought down crops, lunar rituals that could heal or destroy, spirit invocations that terrified monarchs, and magic that manipulates desire at its core. In this video, you're going to uncover the 5 most dangerous witchcraft spells ever recorded. These aren't legends, they're real cases, drawn from historical records and hidden magical texts still feared by those who walk the occult path today. But a word of warning, this knowledge is not for the faint of heart, because once you open this door, you'll never see the world the same way again. Maleficium, curse magic. They didn't pray for justice, they cast spells. The truth is, the fear of curses didn't start in horror movies, but in dusty pages like those of the Malleus Maleficarum, the inquisitorial manual that made even the innocent tremble. Known as the Hammer of Witches, it wasn't just a book, it was a sentence, a tool of control disguised as doctrine, used to identify the unseen, condemn the unwanted, and extinguish any spark of rebellion. Maleficium was the term for any practice that challenged the order, real or conveniently imagined. And so, in a Europe that saw demons in thunderstorms, every failed harvest became proof of sorcery. Fear held everything together. But behind the hysteria, real rituals existed with specific purposes and not always to do evil. But we'll get there. Curses weren't lightning bolts and explosions like you see on screen. They were subtle, silent, a wax doll buried at someone's doorstep, a whispered phrase at midnight, carried by the wind. In occult practice, curses were crafted through symbols, offerings, lunar cycles, and elements of nature. Yes, there was technique involved. For example, a spell to cause infertility might use dried seeds, menstrual blood, or broken objects as symbolic anchors. Every gesture, every word, was a gear in an invisible, dangerous machine. And if someone were to try this today, not that I recommend it, understanding symbolism would be the bare minimum. The power wasn't in the drama, it was in the details. Now let's talk about Trier, Germany in the 16th century. Imagine this: crops rot, children fall ill, and no one knows why. The answer? Witchcraft. Dozens of women were executed under suspicion of casting malefic spells. One, according to records, was accused of turning milk into blood. Sounds wild, right? But the truth is, behind these accusations was social chaos. It was easier to blame a woman than face famine or disease. Many of those condemned weren't witches. They were midwives, herbalists, or simply different. The real curse was collective ignorance. And that kind of curse, it's the deadliest of all. But not every curse was born of vengeance or hate. Some people used maleficium defensively. Ever heard of a preemptive curse? Like a spiritual tripwire. If someone tried to harm you, the blow would return to them. Sounds like karma, doesn't it? But crafted by hand, real examples. People would bury reversed mirrors or personal objects at crossroads, asking spirits to reflect harm back to its source. Even today, ceremonial magicians debate this. Some defend it, others avoid it completely. Because in the occult world, ethics aren't black and white. Protection or revenge. Sometimes it's all in the intent. And if you think this stuff stayed in the past, think again. Today, people offer curse services online like food delivery. Just send a name, a photo, and a payment. Sounds ridiculous, right? But here's the thing. Belief is a powerful force. When someone thinks they've been cursed, their subconscious often sabotages them. A stomachache becomes a sign. A missed call feels like doom. The mind plays along, turning suggestion into reality. And that's the danger. Curses don't always come from spirits. Sometimes they come from ourselves. In the digital age, maleficium wears new clothes. Ever seen those messages that say, if you don't share this, something bad will happen? That's modern symbolic cursing. It plants doubt, and where there's doubt, there's an opening. In many Latin American and African cultures, the evil eye is another living form of maleficium. A jealous look, a silent wish, and the energy shifts. What can you do? Protective. Amulets, cleansing baths, spiritual rituals, all common ways to shield against that kind of influence. If you're serious about this, check out Protection and Reversal Magic by Jason Miller, a no-nonsense practical guide to dealing with negative forces. Now the real question, can someone learn this today? Yes, but not how most people think. It's not about copying a spell from the internet or watching a TikTok of a pop witch. Real study involves tradition, reading grimoires, learning from serious mentors, and above all, responsibility. Because playing with energy without knowing, the consequences is like lighting a candle over a barrel of gunpowder. The ones who truly understand curse magic, they rarely use it. They know the cost, and sometimes the price isn't paid in coins, but in something much deeper. Lunar magic, moon rituals. The moon was never just decoration in the sky. Since the first time humans lifted their eyes to the stars, it became a spiritual compass, and those who understood its rhythm also understood life's cycles. Celtic tribes, Egyptians, African cultures, even Mesoamerican civilizations knew. Each lunar phase holds a unique vibration, and ignoring it is like swimming against the current. What we now call lunar magic was actually a refined strategy of cosmic timing. Waxing moon, time to grow. Full moon, time to manifest. Waning moon, time to cleanse. New moon, time to set intentions. That wasn't superstition, that was survival. After all, if oceans obey the moon, why wouldn't the human spirit? And don't think it was done randomly. There were precise rituals performed at carefully chosen sites. Druid priestesses, for example, would gather in sacred clearings during solstices, where moonlight kissed the leaves like silver veils. There, amid burning herbs and ancient chants, they would make their offerings. A healing spell required herbs, harvested under the right moon, a fertility rite performed under a full moon in a water sign. Everything was symbolic, a code between the invisible and the visible. If you want to reconnect with this today, start simple. Take a moon bath under the full moon, write down intentions during the new moon, or just sit outside and meditate with bare feet on the earth. Some people think this is just modern witch aesthetic, but the practice is old and sophisticated. The Picatrix, an 11th century Arabic grimoire, is a powerful text blending astrology, alchemy, and lunar magic. It teaches how to craft talismans using the moon's placement in each zodiac sign, aligning your desire with planetary force. This isn't TikTok witchery, it's precision. Want an example? If you're seeking mental clarity, try a waxing moon in Gemini. Want to transmute grief? A waning moon in Scorpio. No need for a marble altar or silk robes, just respect, intention, and a basic understanding of celestial cycles. The most powerful magic often hides in simplicity. And here's the thing, this isn't just mystical talk. Science confirms the moon affects human behavior. Sleep, menstruation, mood swings. In psychiatric wards, full moons bring noticeably restless nights. Coincidence? Maybe. But like Carl Jung said, what we do not face in the conscious appears as fate. Lunar magic is conscious participation in the subtle, a way of aligning with, rather than resisting the forces around us. The problem is that modern life rarely gives space to feel any of this. So when people fall out of sync, they don't realize they've simply stopped looking up. Here's something practical you can do. Start a moon journal. Use your phone or a notebook. Track how you feel during each lunar phase. After 2 or 3 cycles, you'll start seeing patterns. Maybe you're more productive during new moons or more emotional during full ones. This small habit becomes a ritual in itself and reveals the natural rhythm of your inner world. Want to go deeper? Read Moonology by Yasmin Boland. It's a practical guide to using the moon's phases for manifestation and emotional clarity. No need to run off to the forest. Sometimes magic begins by turning off your phone and turning on your awareness. But of course, like all real power, lunar magic was feared. When Christianity spread through Britain, many moon rituals were condemned as pagan, or worse, satanic. Priestesses became witches, sacred rituals became heresy, and ancient wisdom was buried under dogma. Why? Because the moon represents something institutions fear: the feminine, the cyclical, the wild. Reclaiming these practices today is more than spirituality. It's an act of reconnection with nature, with the body, with the rhythms modern life trained us to ignore. And now something curious is happening. A silent revival. More people, especially women, are returning to lunar knowledge, creating full moon circles, sharing ancestral stories, reclaiming forgotten rituals. Why? Because we're exhausted. Everything's urgent, but nothing's deep. Lunar magic teaches the opposite. It teaches us to plant with patience, nurture with care, and harvest with gratitude. Maybe that's why, even now, so many people feel different on full moon nights. The body remembers, even when the mind forgets. But what if the moon is just the beginning? What if there are forces we don't need to summon because they're already waiting, hidden in plain sight? Spirit invocation, Goetia and necromancy. Here, my friend, the game changes entirely. When someone decides to summon a spirit, whether it's the soul of the dead or an ancient entity, things move from symbolic to energetic, heavy. The Goetia, for instance, is one of the most feared parts of the Lemegeton, a grimorium attributed to King Solomon, listing no less than 72 infernal spirits. We're not talking about lonely little ghosts here. These are ancient intelligences, sharp, strategic, with agendas of their own. Many modern practitioners won't even open that book without proper protection. And still, some say that even thinking about those names stirs the air. Summoning isn't calling, it's unlocking a door. And once opened, why would someone do this? Simple: power, knowledge, and sometimes revenge. Necromancy, the art of communicating with the dead, was used to ask questions only the deceased could answer. Goetia, on the other hand, went further, seeking deals with entities for tangible results. Wealth, influence, control. Sounds like a pact, doesn't it? Because it is. But it's not like in the movies. No red demons with contracts in fire. It's more subtle. Some Lemegeton rituals require specific symbols, rare incenses, metals, and long hours of preparation. And even then, the practitioner must know how to command the entity. Otherwise, they become its toy. This isn't a party trick, it's soul-level negotiation. Now let's look at a real case. England, 1527. Roger Bolingbroke, a renowned astrologer and magician, was accused of summoning spirits to predict the death of King Henry VI. The result? Arrest and execution. But here's the twist. Historical records suggest his predictions were accurate, which makes you wonder, were they afraid of what he did or of what he knew? He wasn't alone. Across Europe, nobles, occultists, and even clergymen secretly dabbled in invocation, because true contact, true power, was too tempting to ignore. And what gives access to hidden forces often threatens those who thrive on keeping secrets buried. Today, Goetia has resurfaced through modern esoteric groups like the Golden Dawn, the OTO, and other ceremonial magic circles. But let's be clear, this isn't child's play. Invocation is energy exchange. It's an agreement, and all agreements require payment. If someone is drawn to this path, they must study deeply, practice spiritual protection, and above all, have a clear intention. And no, curiosity doesn't count. A safe starting point. Begin with symbolic invocation, like guided meditations using archetypes. Read Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig or The Practice of Magical Evocation by Franz Barden. These offer method, structure, and most importantly, caution. Interestingly, in African diaspora religions like Vodou and Umbanda, invocation is also practiced, but with structure, respect, and ancestral permission. There are drums, chants, offerings. No spirit is called without consent, and this teaches us a lot, because unlike some Western magical arrogance, where entities are treated like cosmic servants, traditional systems understand one thing. Invocation isn't about command, it's about permission. And when you forget respect, the consequences follow. Nightmares, illness, unexplained chaos. Ever heard the saying, play with fire? You know the rest, but it's not all darkness. Some practitioners have reported deep connection, healing, even inner transformation through respectful spirit work. Some summon not to control, but to understand, to unlock mental patterns, to heal deep emotional wounds. Sounds strange. Carl Jung himself once said that demons are just projections of the human psyche. Seen that way, spirit invocation can be a dialogue with forgotten parts of yourself. But listen, only do this if you're emotionally stable and guided by someone experienced. The abyss, when stared into, sometimes stares back. And now the real question, if it's so risky, why are more people doing it than ever? Maybe because the world's full of surface-level answers, and people are starving for something real. They don't want dogma. They want contact, experience, and spirits, whether internal or external, offer exactly that, raw connection. But be warned, what you call might just call you back. And in some rituals, once you've spoken, the silence is never the same. Again. But what if there were other forces already here, woven into nature itself, waiting, watching, whispering? Herbal magic, natural witchcraft. If there's one form of magic that survived time, tucked away in grandmothers' kitchens, in the gardens of healers, and the silent woods, it's herbal magic. Unlike dramatic invocations or risky pacts, natural witchcraft is rooted literally. It's the practice of using what the earth offers. Leaves, roots, seeds, flowers, all with intention, care, and above all, respect. The ancients knew that chamomile wasn't just calming, it soothed, both body and spirit. They knew rue wasn't just a weed, it was a shield. And they knew some herbs don't forgive, like belladonna and mandrake, hiding poison behind fragrance, knowledge that could heal or harm depending on who holds the sprig. In medieval texts like Bald's Leech Book from 10th century England, medicine and magic walked side by side. The line between healing and hexing was so thin, it often disappeared, and that was normal. A mixture of garlic, ox bile, and wine could be used to treat infection or to ward off evil spirits. What made the difference? The intention, the words, the hour, the belief. And today, echoes of those practices still live on. Herbal baths for cleansing, smudging for purification, tea blends for spiritual balance. You don't need a pentagram or a black robe. You just need to understand that each leaf has a spirit, each root a story, and each scent a subtle effect. And if you think this all belongs in the past, think again. The modern herbalist is simply the heir to ancient green witches, just with a badge and a diploma. But the soul of the work is the same. Some herbs calm, like lavender, lemon balm, and passion flower. Others energize, like ginseng, guarana, and rosemary. And others seduce. Yes, love spells made with cinnamon and honey, rose water infusions, and lily baths to open the heart are all rooted in herbal magic. It's not just esoteric flair, there's chemistry behind it. Want to try something simple? Place bay leaves in your wallet to attract prosperity. Simple, natural, ancestral. But it's not all chamomile and soft petals. Herbal magic has a darker side. Plants like datura, hemlock, and wolfsbane were used to poison kings and traitors. In certain shamanic rites, psychoactive plants were tools to enter trance states, access spirit realms, and fly in soul form, just like Isabel Gaudi, confessed in 1662 after supposedly using mandrake and belladonna. Was it truth or torture-induced fantasy? No one knows, but the power of those herbs is real. Even today, some of them are controlled substances. Lesson: never underestimate what grows quietly beneath the soil. What's beautiful about this path is how it teaches us to see the world differently. A rosemary bush on a cracked sidewalk stops being a weed and becomes a teacher. Every plant has a purpose, and if you observe closely, it shows you things. Rhythm, patience, connection. A true practitioner of herbal magic first learns to watch, to listen. Want to begin? Go to a local market and get 3 simple herbs: basil, protection; rue, cleansing; and rosemary, vitality. Use them in a bath, give thanks, pay attention to how you feel afterward. That alone is a powerful initiation. Nature touching your spirit through water. If you're serious about going deeper, there are solid resources to guide you. Start with The Green Witch by Aaron Murphy Hiscock, or the classic Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Both offer spiritual insights and practical steps. It's also worth creating your own herbal grimoire, a notebook where you document your experiences with each plant. Because herbal magic isn't about memorizing what each herb does, it's about discovering what each herb does to you. No universal recipe, only relationship. You cultivate it, harvest it, thank it. And in that cycle, something in you grows too. And here's something few understand. Sometimes you don't need to summon spirits when working with the right plants, because plants are living portals. They carry the memory of earth, air, and rain. They know, and those who listen receive answers. But what happens when herbs aren't enough? When what someone seeks isn't healing or attraction, but domination? There's a kind of witchcraft for that, one that blurs the line between desire and obsession. Love binding, magic of subjugation. Few magical practices stir up as much controversy as love binding. For some, it's an act of desperation. For others, a legitimate way to reclaim a lost love. But one thing is certain: this kind of magic isn't light. It interferes with free will, invades the soul of another, and often entangles your own destiny in ways you can't predict. Love-binding spells have been around for thousands of years, appearing in ancient Greek depicciones, lead tablets, with obsessive pleas for passion and total submission. These were buried in graves, thrown into wells, or slipped beneath someone's bed. The message was always the same: make this person burn with desire, obey like a dog, and never look at anyone else. Dark, right? But that's what it is. Control, disguised as affection. In Roman Egypt, one such defixio was found with a woman's name and a violent invocation to Hecate, goddess of crossroads, demanding she be set on fire with desire and made to obey like a dog. Harsh? Yes, but real. This magic is designed to dominate, and here's the danger. When you tie someone's energy to yours by force, you tie yourself to them as well. There's no command without consequence. Many people who use love binding later find themselves in obsessive, unstable, even toxic relationships. Why? Because that bond isn't natural, it's fabricated, and everything fabricated eventually breaks. Still, the lure of power is seductive. When someone's heart is broken, logic fades. They don't want advice. They want results. They want their ex back, even if it means bending fate. That's when they turn to this magic. Some spells use hair, underwear, photos, or even bodily fluids. Others require very specific offerings: red candles, honey, blood, iron nails, and symbols of submission. And the most disturbing part? Sometimes they work. Emotionally, energetically, psychologically, they work. But the real question is, do you want someone by your side who isn't there by choice? Think this is just ancient history? Not at all. Love bindings are done today, in street markets, private rituals, and discreet altars hidden in bedrooms. People pay big money to spellcasters or try to DIY with spells found online. The digital age turned sacred practice into casual obsession. What used to be a ritual is now just a YouTube search away. And sadly, the core behind most of it isn't love. It's a lack of self-worth, because when you truly value yourself, you don't need to force anyone to stay. Real love is invited in, not shackled to your bedpost. But here's the good news. There's a way to work with love magic ethically. There's a branch called attraction magic that focuses on awakening your own magnetism, not hijacking someone else's will. These rituals include rose petals, honey baths, pink candles, and quartz crystals. No names, no control, just clearing your energy so the right person finds you. Want something practical? Take a warm bath with vanilla and rose petals before a date. Light a pink candle while repeating affirmations of self-love. Write what kind of love you want, not who. Because true attraction isn't manipulation, it's resonance. But here's the catch. The line between desire and obsession is razor thin, and most people only see the damage after it's done. Love forged in chains often collapses, and when it does, the emotional aftermath is brutal. Guilt, confusion, deep sadness, symptoms of a spiritual cord that was never meant to exist. The universe has its own balance, and whatever is gained by violating free will tends to unravel. So before asking for someone, ask for yourself. Ask for strength, for clarity, for healing. Because when you're whole, love comes differently. And now the part no one tells you. In many traditions, love bindings are considered a form of dark magic because they override consent. And anything that breaks someone else's will eventually breaks your own. True. Love doesn't need chains, it needs truth and freedom. But what if there are even deeper forgotten rituals out there, ones not meant to bind another, but to reshape reality itself? Now that you know the spiritual reality behind the greatest battle of existence, tell me, are you going to keep living on autopilot, pretending none of this concerns you? Whether you like it or not, you're already inside this war. Michaels. Sword doesn't strike only tyrants, it cuts deep into the soul, in the silence of your daily choices. And the question you must ask yourself now is simple, yet terrifying. Which side of the blade are you on? It's time to reflect. For real, who have you been serving without realizing it? What shadows have you been feeding with carefully crafted excuses? And more, would you even recognize the light if it appeared before you, or would you be seduced by pretty, empty disguises? The revelation is already happening. Judgment is personal. And your life, your essence, your truth is what's on the line. So tell me, which part of this message hit you the hardest? Have you ever felt the presence of Archangel Michael in your life? Had a dream, a sign, a turning point that seemed impossible and pulled you back into alignment? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear you. I want to read what woke you up. And if this message stirred something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to open their eyes too. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, because here, you're not just watching another video. You're receiving the truth most people are too afraid to speak.